You will never amount to anything. We shall see, brother.
Hey, what's going on, YouTubers? This is Zen from Zen World, and I hope you're having a great day. So we are reviewing and doing a rundown for X-Men number 12. So X-Men number 12 is a direct lead up to Ten of Swords. Now, Ten of Swords is a big, gigantic, and very hype on my end X-Men event that is going to be starting on the 23rd of September 2020 for a new comic book day. So it's definitely going to be a book that I'm going to pick up. So let's really get into this book right now for X-Men number 12. So X-Men number 12 starts off with the Summoner. Now the Summoner is a character that's brand new to the X-Men mythos, and is a character that has the potential, right? Not the potential, but the ability to summon elementals and other demon-esque familiars, right? When I say familiars, kind of like servants of himself, right? Now, not that much has been seen in terms of his summoning ability, but he is on Krakoa now, right? And he was staying on Arakko. Now, Arakko is I would say the sister island, right? Or the brother island of Krakoa. And Krakoa is a living island that the X-Men and the rest of the mutants have refuge on, right? They live there. That is their home. It's kind of their nation. Krakoa is their nation. They even have a language of Krakoa, right? Developed by Cypher, and basically it was a form of, it's a language, but at the same time, Cypher helped to decipher, right, the language from Krakoa itself, and telepathically, Professor X embedded the language into all of the mutants who reside in Krakoa. I'm getting a little bit further off because the whole Dawn of X has been a series of world-building events. The beginning of this book for X-Men number 12 takes place with Summoner speaking to Rockslide and two other mutants. Now, one of the things that Summoner is trying to do is simply teach them a game. And through it, they're also talking about weaknesses, or vulnerabilities rather. And Summoner describes Rockslide to have this outer shell, right? This rock outer shell, which houses his energy version of himself, right? This is why he blows up, and they talk about this a little bit more in the sense of why is that a weakness, right? And Summoner says, well, it's not a weakness, but it's a vulnerability in the sense that if someone knew where to strike, then they would know exactly what to do. Now, I have a lot of theories based on this, that the game that he's trying to teach him is basically like a war-based game, right? Because we don't get too much into the game itself, but I have, I'll do this in a different video. But continue on, Apocalypse comes in, and Summoner says to Apocalypse, grandfather, basically, what do you need? So Apocalypse says to him, he's about to talk, right? But then he says, Summoner says, do you want to play a game with us? And Apocalypse is like, do I seem like the type who would play games? And Summoner says yes. And I wonder if that's a hint into something else. But continuing on, the other three mutants, they leave. And Rockslide says, well, I'll see you later. And Summoner says, hopefully not too long, or something of the sorts. And they sit down, and Apocalypse lets Summoner know that he was able to complete the external gate. Now, this is a direct reference from Excalibur number 12, where he needed to sacrifice some of the externals. Now, the externals are immortal-based mutants. And towards the end of the book, the reason for the sacrifice was the construction of the external gateway that Apocalypse needed in order to bridge Krakoa to Otherworld to then Arakko. There's a lot that goes into that, of course, right? As you could hear. But as they're sitting and talking about it, the Summoner says, well, it's great. You have the gate and it's ready, but you seem to be troubled, grandfather. in a sense. And Apocalypse says, well, I need to know. He needs to know what happened. And the summoner says, you need to know. We're led on to that he needs to know what happened to Arako. What happened in the sense of everything that happened, all the people, right? All the mutants that were there. What happened? So Summoner begins to tell this world building epilogue, right? About what happened. And one of the things that I loved in the beginning of his story was that he said that, there was a time where people believed that Apocalypse was the savior. And, there was a time, there's also a story parallel to it that makes him to be a traitor and someone who basically deserted the people, right? It's kind of like a game of telephone, right? Where originally you have a story, right? And as you start to tell people, it starts to change. And that's what Summoner speaks of. He says, well, there's fact, and then there's also, there's what really happened, and there's what, has been passed down, right? And the story changes. So we don't really know if everything, even what we're hearing from Summoner, is the exact, right, truth. But what we do know is what he tells us. And he tells us that, during those times, there was a lot of war. There was a lot of, there was fighting, right? And where we see many characters, I'm not going to get into the whole tale of the story, but we see brand new characters that we have never really seen in the X-Men mythos, such as the White Sword Bearer, who's a healer, one of the greatest healers of all time. And we see other characters, but one of the most important characters that we see, and we also see her downfall, is the wife of Apocalypse. Yes, the wife of Apocalypse. Her name is Genesis. Now, not to be confused with the clone Genesis of Apocalypse or another Genesis that you've heard of from Marvel Comics, but this is the first appearance, right? Or not the first appearance, but the first appearance in a comic book, not in a preview, of the wife of Apocalypse. She is titled the wife of Apocalypse, the mother to the Four Horsemen, the original Four Horsemen, and also the leader of the mutants of basically Arako, right? Pretty amazing, because the world building continues with the Donna X, and Jonathan Hickman has really done an amazing job in doing this. But continuing on just a little bit more, right? We see her demise by the hands of someone that seems to be unknown, right? In a lot of comic book previews, the name is classified. We don't know who this character is, but what we do know is this is the person who basically took down Genesis. As we come back to the sitting, right, where Apocalypse and Summer are talking, they then make their way to the external gate. There, at the external gate, he basically repeats to Summoner that it is complete. There's a lot of sacrifices that happen in order to make this work, referencing the externals that needed to be sacrificed, some unwillingly, right? Not some, but all unwillingly, in order to make this work, right? And he says to him, you're gonna go, right, to Otherworld, you're gonna go to protect. You're going to go to Otherworld, and you're going to go to Arako, but you're going to be accompanied by two mutants, Untouchable and Banshee. I don't know that much about Untouchable, but I do know about Banshee, and I've missed him. I love his character. I love his power set. It's just something that's always, made me just be like, he's awesome, right? The color scheme and everything like that. I think I just have a lot of nostalgia from old school X-Men cards. But when it comes to what's going to happen next, they make their way to, and it's funny because those are two obscure characters, right? You would think that Apocalypse would ask for, I don't know, more of a hierarchy of mutants to go, but he asked for Banshee and Untouchable, and I can't argue because I love seeing characters we haven't seen in a long time, and then they make them relevant once again. So, as they're making their way to the gate, Summoner says, and I'm going to quote it as it is in the comic and the panels. He said, "I can feel it, grandfather. This is the beginning of a new age," right? "And when you see me again, I will greet you in a manner befitting not just a hero of Krakoa, but as the father and true heir of Araco." So then we get a beautiful panel with Apocalypse looking as they're descending, and then the couple of final words are, "You have my word, grandfather. This I promise." And then the book concludes. It's really amazing how much from all of Donna X, but prior to Donna X, we had X of House of X and Powers of 10, and how those books alone have really brought X-Men to the forefront once again. And I am very happy with everything that Jonathan Hickman has done in terms of the world building, the lore of the X-Men, and just look at all his information for Apocalypse, his wife, his kids, his grandkids, basically, right? It's pretty miraculous and amazing. One of the things that I neglected to say a little bit earlier, but we could talk about it after, is we did get a page, and Hickman does a really good job in doing this. He gives us a page just on more information on summoners, right? And how many summoners there are currently left, and the hierarchy of abilities. Now, the summoner that's in X-Men number 12, right? The grandson of Apocalypse, he is one of the highest level. He is one out of, I believe it's 2 or 3, right? I believe there was 3 in total, but now there's only 2 left, something of the nature, right? And his ability stretches to the place where he can summon elementals and also demons, right? So, or demons. You know, they spell it Deamons. So that's why I said demons. But it's pretty cool because they also say that their powers are linked to some kind of alien force. That part is weird to me, but it's not too weird because I guess they siphon abilities off from an alien force. And my parallel to that, so it's not as confusing, is think about Doctor Strange. When Doctor Strange does spells, he's siphoning the abilities from magical and outworldly multi-universal kind of beings, right? When he asks for the chains of Sidorak, right, he's siphoning a percent of power from Sidorak himself, right? If you're not familiar with Sidorak, Sidorak is the bearer of the gem, and that basically bestows a portion of his power into the gem that Juggernaut uses in order to be himself. But anyway, just kind of concluding with this rundown and review. It's an amazing book. I'm not going to give it a score because all of the X-Men books and have been miraculous to me, and that's why I'm going to do a whole couple of weeks on the X-Men stories. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing a theories video on who might be that unknown person, right? That brought the downfall of Genesis. So yeah, and I have a lot of other theories that I want to talk about, but I can't talk about this in video. But I could tell that some of you have probably seen the hints of me thinking other things during explanation. One of the things that I want to talk about is I don't trust Summoner. I don't trust Summoner. He seems to be a peaceful type of character, but I don't trust him at all. But I'm going to talk about that on the next video. This is Zen from Zen World saying peace, love, and prosperity. If you're enjoying the content, drop me a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you all later on the next one. Take care, everyone.